Hey everybody, welcome to Surface Level, curious conversations about the Black and queer experience. I'm one of your hosts, Tony, and today, Durand Bernarr and I are discussing the impact that access to Beyonce's internet has had on creative expression. Bring back gatekeeping.
Do y'all think that gatekeeping is gone?
Gatekeeping is absolutely gone. Nobody can shut the fuck up.
Has having easy access to the internet make people think that they're more talented than they actually are?
I don't think it's a thing of you think you're talented. I think it's more so these are the tools that I have to be able to express myself and get myself out there. The talent will speak for itself.
A lot of people are now confusing attention with talent. And what I mean by that is I think sometimes we don't focus on the craft as much as I think we should have.
So being on the first wave of certain things, like I know Alice Ingram seems scary. AI.
I was just like, who is that?
That's why I'm roommates with change. Like, bitch, let me know when you gonna pop up so that I can just get into formation with you, you know.
This is Girl, Bring Back Gatekeeping. Bring it back. Bring it right on back.
Don't love
The
that.
girls have too much access these
I'm
days.
tired.
Yeah, we're really tired.
I have strong opinions
Today we're
about
gonna
this.
we're gonna
No, you
talk
do.
about that.
Can't wait to talk about it.
But before we talk about that, we have a really exciting guest in the building. This is another, I feel like this season has been like full circle moments with a lot of our guests. And so I'm gonna go ahead and introduce them. So today's guest is a Grammy-nominated visionary, your favorite singer,
Yeah.
with a genre-defying sound that fuses the exuberance of Little Richard and the funk of Rick James, bitch. He continues to captivate audiences with his talent that literally bounces off the walls, and his latest project, Bloom, is a love letter to the bonds that shape us and the garden we all grow in. And today, we couldn't be more excited to welcome Durand Bernarr to our Surface Level family.
Hello there, family.
Hello,
Welcome, love.
welcome.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Yes.
Yes.
We are huge fans of yours. We've listened to your music. We've bonded over your music for many years.
Love
And
that.
so to finally have you like sitting at this table with us is one of those like moments where we're just like,
This is fun.
this is
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, you know, a
Yeah.
little waiting to exhale.
You know. So but we have a lot to unpack, and we know your experience and your life's experience and the work that you do is gonna add a lot to this conversation. But before we go deeper, let's scratch the surface with an icebreaker that I'm calling Garden of Influences. So we saw a recent interview, maybe not recent, I don't know how long ago it was, but where someone asked you about who your Mount Rushmore of influences were.
Oh yeah.
Different artists and whatnot. So I want to like take a little spin on that and talk about influences that different artists have had on each of us. So I'm going to start here for the group. Who's your ultimate queen or king of stage presence?
Well, collective answer.
Collective.
I mean, if we're talking about queens, we can all maybe just say
King B.
King
I mean,
B.
it's definitely Beyonce. I mean, stage
Sorry.
presence, yeah.
Yeah.
For me, it's Beyonce for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Beyonce is definitely top tier. And when I think about beyond that, I mean, Michael Jackson, of course, and then Tina Turner is like ultimate.
I mean,
Ultimate.
I like Lady Gaga on the stage.
Yes.
And she has range on the stage. She was sitting down at the piano at the Super Bowl the other day. But then we got like rah 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 my ma Gaga back with this abracadabra.
Yeah,
and I'm
yeah,
just I like a versatile queen.
I
Yeah.
love
She can
Rara.
play you a tribute and fuck it up for the crowd. I like that. I like it.
I do too.
Speaking of versatility, Durand Bernarr.
Yes. Period.
Yeah.
That
Yes.
motherfucker be
Okay.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
You got to
Yeah.
give him something
I've seen
different. Shake
a
it
couple
up.
performances, and I love your interaction with the audience.
Yeah.
Like you actually like connect with the people that are there and get everybody excited about the show, even though they're already excited because they're there. But like, I love it.
Yeah, it's like, you know what I like when I'm out and being entertained by whomever, something that makes my body wiggle. Without I could just be sitting there, but you can't help but move because the energy and the vibe, and that is what Durand brings to the stage. We all know that. So let's talk about who's the master of reinvention in your book.
Oh,
I can start.
Luther.
Luther.
He took so many songs that
True.
we didn't even know that were other people's songs, and just added a different texture and color to it that, and an approach, a perspective, if even,
absolutely,
and then me, yes, because we got to go not living and then living. You know?
Yes.
I am very into anytime Cynthia Erivo is getting on a tribute right now.
Man.
Okay.
Because, and it's also like, I mean, the rendition she did of Alfie, I'm thinking about the rendition she did of Fly Me to the Moon just now on the Grammys. She did like a Prince tribute when she was performing at the Royal Albert. And like, I just love it's a level of craft that very few people exude currently. I also think the girls hate to see Kelly Clarkson could jump on their song.
Oh, baby.
That's her song too.
She's a singer.
Another one, and I'm thinking very specifically about when she was on Terrell's show, Samara Joy. Like, she's a jazz singer, but like she always mixes like that Stevie Wonder song into her show. That's really beautiful. She covered that Adele song, Someone Like You, and and it's like she's doing jazz in such a really cool, especially her second album, Portrait, in such a really cool, modern, unique one. It has like her point of view, which is
When I'm thinking about this question, I'm thinking about like one name came to mind immediately, and that was Janet Jackson. She's constantly reinventing herself. I think an artist's job is to continue, changing and evolving, and she's done an amazing job at that. And then I was thinking about, when we're talking about visionaries today, Missy Elliott.
Yes,
Like,
yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
She's constantly raising the bar.
I feel like I think I'm like a huge fan of Doechii. And I just love how many genres she can experiment with and how well I receive all of the different genres. Like, she's done like more rock focused work. She's done electronic. She's done R&B. She's done like boom bap rap, more like theatrical rap. Like, it's just really fun. Like, I think that there's just like, it's kind of like a toy box of just like a bunch of different sounds and influences. But it's all like, it all feels like her. So I love that.
Yeah. Let's see who else we have in our garden of influences. Let's talk about who's the definitive vibe maker that always gets you in the zone.
Ooh.
And I'm curious what your answer is going to be for this, Jordan.
Who always gets me in the... Well, there's a lot of different zones. I already said Beyonce, I already said Doechii, so I'll do a different artist. I'll say the internet and Sid. So like, I always come around to the internet when I just need to sort of like get into the zone of like calmness. So when things feel like very overwhelming, like, honestly, I just play the internet. I usually start off with like Come Together. It's like a very like uplifting song, but like, I just love Sid's like the texture of her voice and the tone of her voice. And then like, the band around her and the other instrumentalists and singers. It's just like, yeah, I love it.
Okay, yeah. For me, I mean, my favorite artist is Brandy, and so she always. I have my go-to songs when I want to hear something that's going to calm me down, or even if it's just going out. I love listening to her, like Sitting on Top of the World. Like, that's the song that I just give my life to.
Oh, I love that song.
And I remember meeting Brandy when she did Roxy in Chicago on Broadway. And when she was singing while she was signing people's playbills, when she hugged me, she was singing at the same time, and I felt the vibration. Like, it was just like,
flew on up out of there.
Oh my.
They had to take my body and bring it home and revive it, honey.
Wow.
She was singing while you were embraced.
well, she was singing because they were playing her music. All the fans were just playing her
So
music.
she's just singing,
singing a little casualties.
That would have sent me.
Yeah.
I am, in fact, sitting on top of the world.
I was sitting on top of the world. How about you, Durand? Who's the ultimate vibe maker?
Salt.
Okay.
That's the band that Cleo Soul is in. It's so eclectic, like it's world music. Like, it feels very just A lot of it feels familiar. You know, when you hear songs and it's like, I know this isn't old, but it feels like it's been here, forever.
Yeah.
It feels like that. Inspirational, groovy stuff that just kind of like lingers, breathes. And also E-Wiz, another artist that I just found that's based out of London,
Nice.
that also produced on the upcoming project too.
Love that. Okay, and lastly for you, Durand, this is a question that we ask everyone who joins us at the table. We want to know from you, what are you curious about? And it could be anything.
Yeah. What am I curious about?
What's got your wheels turning, spinning?
I guess I'm curious about what this year has to offer. I don't set New Year's resolutions anymore. I just kind of fasten my seatbelt. I'm just like, okay, I'm ready for whatever adventures this time has to present to me, whatever pains, whatever joys, that I can learn from, that I can take from and apply. That's what I'm curious about.
Yeah. I'm curious if yesterday's price is not today's
It's not.
price.
It is very not.
Introduce me everywhere as the Grammy-nominated.
Baby. And the nomination was just the hooty-hoo. Because when I'm finna present next, it's just like, now that I have your attention.
Yeah,
Right.
Yes.
exactly. And that's what it gives, right? It's like getting that attention, that spotlight, having those ears perked up. And it's giving, well, I've been here. And now that you are
Welcome to the party.
looking, Okay, so let's get into a conversation around Beyonce's internet.
All right.
And gatekeeping and whatnot, because everyone is a creator these days, when it comes to fashion, when it comes to music, when it comes to art. We have access to the internet and people are using tools, and it's become a lot more accessible to create. And so the question is, has having easy access to the internet make people think that they're more talented than they actually are?
I'm sorry, it's such a funny question.
Listen. Do people think they're more talented than they are because they have these tools that they can just, bebop and do-bab and...
I don't think it's a thing of you think you're talented. I think it's more so, these are the tools that I have to be able to express myself and get myself out there. Before you had to be signed to a label or, have certain access to be able to get into a studio. And so now with just having your laptop, an interface, and a decent microphone, you got Pro Tools that can, or Logic, whatever. I still record in GarageBand, okay, because if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But when you have that, you can get your stuff out there. I'm a music snob, but also there are songs and artists that I love and that I'm a fan of that aren't on a Whitney Houston level or on a Chaka Khan level. Like, is it a good record? Like, can I sing along? Does it connect?
Yeah.
Yep.
Are you emoting? Are you taking me on the journey with you, telling this story? So if anything, I think the digital age has given more room for us to be able to get ourselves out there, even though we are our own promo team, a lot of us. A lot of these companies kind of want you to come already with 2 million followers and this many streams and whatnot. So we're really kind of going off of word of mouth these days, and just playlists and, so no, it's not about the talent. Talent will speak for itself.
Well, that's very true.
I think that's that. But I think you putting out a record that's good, I don't think that has anything to do with talent. I think that's about strategy and having the right formula to be able to put out something that will connect with the masses.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. I think that creative tools, I think the assumption that's being made with the question, how it's framed, is that like if you are using creative tools instead of maybe going the more traditional route, then you inherently are exercising less talent. And I think that it doesn't do justice to the skill that it takes to actually navigate the internet, and also like become an expert in these tools. You know what I mean? Like, yes, does Pro Tools and GarageBand and Photoshop and Illustrator make it easier for people to create? Sure. Can both of us or all three or all four of us go into these apps and come out with something completely different? Yes, and I think that that's because the talent is actually how you choose to navigate these tools and how you choose to use these tools. I think that, back in the day, animation was sketching everything frame by frame, and I'm sure those people were looking at CGI animators and being like, look at these talentless people who are now in the industry, but we have Finding Nemo now.
Come on now.
So I'm just like, I think that, these creative tools allow more people to participate within art, which I think should be something that everyone has access to. And I think that, to what you're saying, people will gravitate towards the things that resonate with them. And I don't think that we necessarily need to have other people tell us what we like.
Yeah. So it's more about these emerging platforms are always going to be, evolving, and new things will be out there.
Always. It's always been happening.
Babes, just imagine, okay, picture it. You've been getting around either on foot or by animal for hundreds of years. And then you see a car pull up.
Yeah.
Or somebody, or you hear about, oh, there's going to be this new invention that, you're going to be able to get around. And you're like, excuse me? So being on the first wave of certain things, that's why I'm roommates with change. Bitch, let me know when you're going to pop up so that I can just get into formation with you, And also, my parents didn't buck technology either. So, my mom was on the video camera. The first 4 years of my life were documented. So, yeah, just getting with it. I know Alice Ingram seems scary. AI.
I was just like, who is Alice?
Yes, but also Chat GPT can also be helpful in other ways. It's really just about how you utilize it.
Yeah. I think when we talk about the internet specifically, I think that a lot of people are now confusing attention with talent. And what I mean by that is I think sometimes we live in this attention economy, particularly with social media. Or if I can get the most likes, or if I can get the most attention for the vibe, then we don't focus on the craft as much as I think we should, as whatever your artistic medium is. Because I think the history of things and the craft that's involved make you a better long-term and well-rounded artist. So I think specifically, let's take it out of music for a second. I watch Drag Race, and Drag Race now has TikTok queens on it. And they have a bunch of followers. They paint very well. They look very great when you edit them and you put them in one photo. But the second you put them on a stage and they have to talk, or they have to entertain, or they have to do something, they all flop. And it's not because maybe they can't do it. It's just because they haven't been required to, because that level of the craft comes from being at your local bars, or being on stage, or being outside touching grass, which is the thing I keep coming back to all season. So I think that, yes, the tools are great, and the tools can get you attention, and the tools can make one part of your artistry sing or make people recognize it. But I think that we get into the places where you have the person with the hot rap song, and then you go see them perform, and you're just like, well, if I could get those 30 minutes of my life back, because now we're not thinking about all of the pieces and the touch point of the art. And I think that just because something new comes along, great. It's great to utilize it. It's great to find ways in which you can amplify yourself and tell your story through it. It's also important to respect the craft of where the things came from, because those, I think, are the most helpful in making you sustainable, in making people, you get the attention up front, but then the minute I see you perform, I'll go, won't ever be going back to that again.
Yeah.
Or that's what I mean. You could, it's important to go outside and touch grass.
It is important. And, so to give you some context, Durand, this season is entitled Girl, Grow Up. And we've been doing a retrospective of topics we covered in our first season. And now we're 10 seasons in, 5 years of doing the podcast. And
congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, darling.
In season 1, we talked about stunt queens and how folks use the internet and, are living double lives. They're showing one thing on screen, and behind the scenes it's giving, oh, you're not really that girl.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of negative impacts that creatively, or just folks living their lives and showing their expression on the internet, that the internet has had on that expression. And so I want to bring up something that I found that I thought was
we have choreography now.
Interesting. So this says that while the digital age has opened up new avenues for creative expression and accessibility, there are concerns that it may have negatively impacted the quality of the creative expression due to factors like the pressure of constantly producing content, shortened attention spans fostered by social media, and the potential shift towards prioritizing quick engagements over deeper artistic exploration, meaning that the constant bombardment of digital stimuli can sometimes hinder the ability to focus on creating truly profound, nuanced work. And that, I feel like, is sometimes the argument Damon has made around this topic about the time spent. Everyone wants to put stuff in a microwave and turn it on 30 seconds and pop it back out, when there are people who are studying their craft and going to school for their craft and actually doing the work. And so, do you think this access has a negative impact? Is there?
I think doing the work can look different than going to a school or getting into a program or going through a traditional route. These are opportunities and resources that don't always reach the most marginalized groups. And I think that, I can look at my career and say, okay, like I deserve this because I went to this school, studied this major, I moved to a major city, I worked in this industry. But a lot of people who may have really, really strong ideas will never even get the opportunity to even walk the path that I have, just because of lack of resources and just because of lack of accessibility. And so when we talk about quality, I think that it's also important to note that quality means different things for different people. I might listen to a song and, really be hyper focused on, I don't know, the sound engineering and just really be into that. And somebody might be able to listen to the song and be like, there's not vocal range within that artist. And so I don't think that this is quality music. And that's their opinion. You know what I mean? I'm not here to tell you that you're wrong about what you like and what you don't like. But I think that when we talk about quality, I think that it should be up to the person who's actually experiencing the art to decide what they find quality. Somebody might connect with something just because they feel like the person is relatable. Somebody who shares their experience, somebody who actually feels like they embody the emotions or the things that they're going through. And it may be less about production value and if there was live instrumentation or computer generated instrumentation. So I think it really depends. I feel like the most famous saying is art is subjective. So if it is, then why do we need a group of people to tell us that it's only this and everything else is, not something that we should be prioritizing or paying attention to or even have access to?
Yeah, I think people take the art is subjective thing a little too far sometimes, to the extent that I don't think that we respect artistic expertise. And by expertise, I mean people that have excellent voices and train those voices, maybe not even just in a schooling route. Like you've been on tour with Erykah Badu for 8-9 years, and that's school
13.
in itself. That's what I mean. It doesn't have to look like I went to Howard and I was in the fine arts program and I did this. There are life lessons, and I look at, you mentioned Doechii earlier today. Her work hit and got to where it is right now when she took a step back and said, you know what, I don't want to make music for TikTok. I want to do the thing that feels most relevant to me, the experiences I've had, and I want to tell this unique story that only I can do. And that became less about, let me figure out how many likes and attention I can get on these various apps so that people can engage with me and so that my label can like it and blah, blah, blah. I've watched her interviews and it's incredible. She was just she told her label, I'm doing this. This is what it's going to be. I'm not discussing it with you. This is the date it's coming out. And when she took her art and her lived experience in that way and put it through that lens, that's when the thing, the tree grew fruit. And I think that there are people, in the same way that we look at scientists or mathematicians and we respect their expertise, I think that there are a lot of people who study music, who have studied and worked in film. I get so fucking tired of people who talk to me about their point of view on fashion and how clothing is put together and the composition of it. And I'm just I've spent 15 years working in this and building and knowing clothes in a very intricate way that you will never understand. But because it's something that we all experience, everybody thinks they're an expert in it. And you are not. In the same way that like there are no defined rules in marketing, but I respect the work that you all have done. And I think that that's something that we often don't do with people that work in more creative spaces. We go like, everything's subjective. No, the fuck, everything is not subjective.
Bring back gatekeeping.
And like that's when it becomes exhausting.
Gatekeeping is gone?
Gatekeeping is absolutely gone.
You think so?
Nobody can shut the fuck up. Everybody gotta share everything.
Yeah. This is interesting.
Every fucking thing.
Yeah.
Folks gotta share. What happened? We need to get back to passing notes. Like, can we get back to passing notes?
I just think that, and it's funny, like the title of this episode comes from me jokingly like yelling, bring back gatekeeping a lot. But what I really mean is like, bring back an intention of what we're doing, bring back the desire to develop. And maybe some of that is through what has been the traditional work of a label and artist development, but maybe some of it is working with major artists as a background singer and then developing your own sound to further do that. Like right now, I'm using the skills I've had from both my career in fashion to like creative direct our show and creative direct other projects and produce other projects. I think that there are ways to utilize the skill that still respects the craft. And then what I go back to is this attention economy. Like that's the thing that irks me to my fucking core. It's just like, if I can get enough people to clap, then I feel like I've done a good job. Whereas like for me, it's just like, I'm trying to figure out how to do the best work and the best version of anything. And maybe nobody claps. And I'm okay with that.
If I jump, I'll make it clap. I'll make
it snap. What you mentioned, Durand, about you feeling like gatekeeping is gone. This just brings me to like kind of switching up where I was headed next in terms of my line of questioning, because I'm curious about that. You feel like gatekeeping is gone. You feel like we need to bring passing notes back. Are there things that we don't see anymore in regards to safekeeping certain areas of work and what have you that you wish still existed? Certain things that it used to be like, this was the protocol, but now everybody can't shut their fucking mouth. So like, well, are there certain things that come to mind? I'm just more curious about why you think gatekeeping is gone.
I mean, because just everybody has to share. Like, it's just, there's certain things that I've seen on TikTok. It's like, why are you sharing this? Mm-hmm. Why are you like, we're losing recipes. Like, it's just, y'all, why are the straights talking about some, what's tea? Talking about some, oh, that's girl lingo. What's happening? What is happening?
The thing I wrote down for this question was language and like colloquialisms and like how Black queer people talk. I remember I was at work and I worked in the fashion industry, all these girls, and then somebody, like this older woman who was like the head of our, not older, but like the woman who's the head of our team. She was like, oh yeah, have you heard this language? She's like, it's like Gen Z language. I was like, girl, I was a Black queer boy. They all talk like the way we talk. Yeah. And I'm just like, I be hearing these people talk, I'm like, I could climb a fucking wall.
Well, they learned these things from these gatekeepers who tell them, these institutions that have been around telling them what these things are and not necessarily knowing. So the experts who told us that boxer braids wasn't cornrows, this is somebody who has probably worked decades into their career, worked at a very established company that positions themselves as a thought leader, an expert in the space. And the reality is, if they would have just said boxer braids or what the thing is 15 years ago, like how would we even have had the opportunity as the group to debunk that? You know what I mean? When you don't have the platform, you can't, communicate. Everything is just one to many. You're looking at TV, you're reading a magazine. You can't say, that's wrong. You tell it to your friend next to you. You hope somebody listens. But now you have the ability as a small group, maybe as a marginalized group, to be able to also use your platform and say, this is wrong. This is not the truth. This is not the history. I'm going to use my platform to speak up. And then that can go and gain traction as opposed to waiting for somebody at ABC Studios to say, let's bring in a Black gay person to come in and like debunk this. How often is that happening? Especially when you look at these gate-kept institutions and they don't look like us.
I think that's also more of a reflection of an issue and not just a solve. Like we should be, I say this, I've said it about a lot of things. Black queer people need to be in every space at every, like, I don't want to just say, okay, let's just like give it back to the people on the internet and hope they catch it. No. I think about the fashion industry, which I'm in or I've been in, and I think about that fucking stupid editor that said that. And then you have people in spaces now like Lindsay, who runs The Cut, and she's on people's ass about anything in our industry, or is from a Black point of view, that people fuck up and doing. So like, yes, can we be on the internet and correct it from home? Sure. But I also want people like us, who live like us, look like us, love like us, to be in that room as well. Mm-hmm. I've been in many a room with many a fucking, like I was working in the fashion industry, and I was at a certain company, and they were like, we want to do more things with streetwear. And I looked them in the face, and I was like, I'm a Black boy from Chicago. Where I'm from, people just call them clothes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And they need people like that internally telling them shit like that as well. So like, I don't want to just leave it to be, hopefully, I catch it on the internet and have to yell back. I'm just like, no, somebody needs to catch it in the meeting and check them right the fuck there.
That's why I think we need both. I disagree, actually. I think that gatekeeping is alive and well. I think there's a lot of things that you aren't able to access or participate in unless somebody in some boardroom in a skyscraper says yes to it. That has not gone away. I think what has changed and what people are responding to emotionally is that everyday people can now, contribute to the conversation and not just be a consumer of the conversation. Mm-hmm. And I think that we need both. Even though I'm advocating for an everyday person to be able to put their work out there, I also understand that I'm a person that's in my identity, that's in a space where I have an opportunity to gatekeep.
I'm just you are definitely in a skyscraper in a boardroom.
Exactly. But I understand the importance of what I'm doing in my perspective in those meetings where we're not there. And I also understand what it means to open up your phone and open up whatever you look to media to also see us there. And it not just be 20 channels on TV that's controlled by a group of people that aren't necessarily reflective of us. Mm-hmm. And so we already know that Black and queer people aren't necessarily embraced in a lot of these industries. And so what happens when we're not embraced by the industry and also we don't have a voice as a person, as an individual? What happens? History gets lost. Things don't get carried over to the generation afterwards, and we continue to be at a disadvantage. So I think that, we need to have people in these institutions, but we also need everyday people to be able to express themselves. And I don't think taking that away from them is going to solve the issue.
Mm-mm. Yeah, and I mean, when I'm just thinking about also, like, just going back to what Durand mentioned in the beginning, like, if there are pieces of our like the queer experience or even the Black experience that I would like to gatekeep, it probably would be certain language that we use, or maybe like the ballroom scene and just our culture overall. I think our culture, they're hijacking it.
Look what these niggas into
the way that I have to correct someone every time they say a death drop. I'm like, it's a dip. Like it makes me hate language. Like it just makes me hate words. Just woof.
Yeah, that is something that I find frustrating. And if I was going to,
I mean, look what happened to woke. You let fucking white people get a hold of anything, and now put the gate back up. Keep it in here.
That's what I was saying.
No. In the Motown days, they was literally just taking songs from artists and giving it to a white artist, and nobody could rally against that because we didn't have a platform to be able, in a megaphone, to say this is fucked up. Right. You know what I mean? It hasn't changed. People are still taking from Black culture, giving it to white people, and then calling it fetch. The difference is now we can be like, that is wrong. It can be a movement on social media. You can get people riled up. You can get people educated on what's right. But when you're just relying on the people in power to be able to be honest about what's going on, I honestly think that disenfranchised groups and marginalized groups are probably going to suffer the most from that. So I feel like we want to go back to just gatekeeping, where it's just a small group of people saying that this is what it is.
I don't think anybody's saying that.
No, not that.
No one's talking about that at all. I think we're talking about things that are important to our culture.
Yes.
That we don't want them getting a hold of
that
or running around and
That's
fucking
what I said.
up.
We're losing. When I said we're losing recipes, I'm saying we're giving them away to motherfuckers that aren't even using them properly.
So we just don't be ourselves on the internet?
No. Not saying,
we said that ain't. This is for us.
This is for us.
That ain't got nothing to do with y'all. It means that when we sit together and talk, there are ways in which we talk to each other that we love, that means certain things.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then some person overhears it, and now they on fucking news misusing it.
But is that our cross to bear? Are we supposed to now not like communicate with each other the way that we want to communicate because we're nervous that the wrong person might hear it and use it in the wrong context?
Nobody said
later?
that.
No, I'm just trying to understand. Like
we said, what would we like for the world to be? A world where I don't have to listen to people misuse the context of being woke.
Right.
A world in which I don't have to listen to people use the word DEI as a fucking slur to basically call me a nigga. A world in which I don't have to listen to little white girls use black queer lingo and then tell me that it's Gen Z language from TikTok.
Well, what's the solution for avoiding that?
We don't know what the solution is.
I don't know. That's where I don't hate to do.
The conversation is
It's not bringing back gatekeeping.
The conversation is just a conversation around what would we love to see. It's not about, we're not going to sit here and solve world hunger.
Now that's not my work.
I would like to have a practical conversation.
Listen, you're
I
a
mean,
real
most-
solutionist, okay? I thought I was a solutionist.
No, but I think that it's just a conversation around the whole idea of everything that's going on. It's not to say that any of these conversations are going to come in one fell swoop change the game, because the internet does exist, and that's not something that you can really police.
Control. Like once shit gets on the internet, it has a life of
Baby.
its own. Sometimes I don't have to and sometimes I don't like that life. And that's the end of it.
Yeah.
I miss when the internet was like designated to like a family computer.
That you have to share.
Like you had to share.
You had
You
to
know?
get off the phone.
Like it was literally a place you had to go to, and now it's all around us.
Yeah, you never get off the internet.
Yeah.
Ooh, baby.
Well, speaking of a place you have to go, and we talked about the negative aspects that can exist around accessibility to the internet. Are there positive things that we can highlight? I mean, we know Jordan thinks they're positive things, but
I think they're positive things.
Okay.
I mean, I found him singing Window Seat on the internet many years ago.
Many.
That's a positive thing that's come from the
well,
internet.
that is a positive thing. It's the discovery of
I think
good real talent.
And actually, back to my original question about attention, I think using the internet for discovery is great.
Yeah.
I would still like for there to be some artist development before I have to look at you in an arena struggling. You all were there with me. I won't talk about who I'm talking about. But if we could all get those 45 minutes back, I don't think anybody would argue differently on that.
Ooh, I wouldn't dare, so I don't know what you're talking about.
we'll update you post when the camera off. But I just think that, yes, I think that's a great way to discover people, especially if you live in maybe a smaller town where there aren't access. And like, yeah, it's an amazing thing to be able to, hey, I got this voice, or I can do this thing, or I'm creating this art and sharing it, and then finding ways in which people can engage it, building your own community. I mean, that's what we've done with this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Community for
Durand,
sure.
how are you using the internet as an artist?
Community,
Okay.
networking, promo, sharing information, music,
And what do you do to decide for yourself the ways in which you're going to engage with it and the ways in which you're not?
It's honestly, you have to kind of have you have to have boundaries for yourself, because it's a lot. Like it is, and I use like Facebook as an example of when you have a certain amount of people on your friends list, at some point there could be like 10 or 15 birthdays in one day.
Yes.
And it's like the idea of me saying happy birthday to each person runs the risk of 15 conversations happening to me at one time.
Oh my God.
And it's like, whoo, that's a lot, so you just have to kind of like manage, because it can be overstimulating, so that's why it's important that, you set your designated time for that. And then also it's important to just unplug,
Yeah. Well, a great segue, unplugging. And we're going to unplug with your new album next week. And so I want to know a little bit about that journey you're on. I'm hearing words like impact and intention and bloom. And where are you in your artistry right now in terms of putting out this project next week?
I'm in a space of relinquishing certain parts of control to allow fresh new ideas and guide me in areas and spaces that I might not have gone on my own, while still telling stories that are true to myself and where I want to go and how I'm going.
Yeah.
It's very musical. Like, it's very musical.
What do you mean by that?
Like, there's one record in particular where, because I want music to breathe. I was letting the team know I don't want to make another song under 5 minutes.
I picked up on that. I was like, you don't get 5-minute long songs anymore like you used to.
Yeah, like the things that I have to say in this music is a little longer than 140 characters. So I wanted to, and of course there's going to be a reward for sticking around for the whole 5:20 or 5:45 or 6:10, whichever it is. I'm not going to listen. As Luther said, I'm not here to waste your ticket money. Okay, like I'm taking you on a journey, and it is just letting shit breathe. I miss that, giving room for instrumentation to have its moment.
That's exciting. That is really exciting. And so, there's one thing that I was curious about that I was reading that said something about, in the beginning, your earlier projects was pre-therapy Durand. Then you had the version of Durand in therapy, and you have this version that is what?
I love how y'all just said.
This is a good question.
Okay. This is, so after Wanderlust, we had En Route, which was a road trip themed project going from one project to the next.
Yeah.
And that excursion was Bloom is a destination, because we were on our way somewhere and we arrived in love.
Yeah.
So that's what Bloom is.
Are you in love?
Absolutely.
I love that.
Absolutely. Yes.
That's amazing. Period.
Yes, I ain't got to wait long.
Period.
Yeah.
We got you right on time.
Yeah.
All
That's
right.
why I was like, normally people don't get right on time.
Listen.
We'd be like, now this comes out in December. You just keep that in mind.
That is exciting.
Yes.
Okay, well, that is all the time we have this week. If you've enjoyed this episode, let's keep the conversation going. Let us know your thoughts and questions at surfacelevelpodcast.com. And remember, stay curious.